Chapter 2: The New Age Movement. The New Age religion appears to be the exact opposite of the Old Age religion, meaning the religion of the Jews and the Christians. These are the two religions that set the United States on its course because these religions taught that mankind had some basic human rights. They held that the family was the basic unit in all of the world. They believed in the right to private property. They believed in the inalienable, defined as being incapable of being surrendered, right to life. They held that each person had the right to worship their God. And they held that all had the right to freedom of association. As shall be documented in this study, these positions, which were deemed to be self-evident by those who wrote the American Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, became the cornerstones of the American civilization. The term self-evident means that these human rights were not worthy of debate because they stood on their own simply because they were true. They couldn't be debated. Yet, today, these cornerstones of American life are no longer self-evident. They are being publicly discussed. People and organizations are now debating whether an individual has the basic human rights to life, liberty and property. Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche, a German philosopher, and one of the teachers of many of the world's leading communist revolutionaries, put the argument quite succinctly. In this statement, I condemn Christianity. I raise against the Christian Church the most terrible of all accusations that any accuser uttered. It is to me the highest conceivable corruption. 56. Tex Mars, an author who has written in opposition to the New Age, wrote this about their hatred of the Christians. The New Age believer is told, "You could be a god in the next instant if only those horrible Christians weren't around with their poisonous attitudes." 57. That thought was illustrated by another of the important New Agers, David Spangler, who wrote this in his book entitled Reflections on the Christ. We can take all the scriptures and all the teachings and all the tablets and all the laws and all the marshmallows and have a jolly good bonfire and marshmallow roast, because that is all they are worth. 58. So the New Age, like the Masons, feel that Christianity is the enemy, a force to be countered, not by open debate, but by contempt and ridicule, and as shall be illustrated later, by even murder. Other parties wish to join the debate. In 1911, the Socialist Party of Great Britain published a pamphlet entitled Socialism and Religion, in which they placed their position about religion into the arena. It is therefore a profound truth that socialism is the natural enemy of religion. A Christian socialist is in fact an anti-socialist. Christianity is the antithesis of socialism. 59. So the socialist, the New Ager, and the Mason have declared war on the Christians. And, as in every war, the enemy must be defeated, even by bloodshed if necessary. This war is no different. Bloodshed is anticipated by all parties in the battle. Lavetti Lafferty and Bud Hollowell, two New Agers, started the discussion about how their religion sanctions the use of violence against the Christian community. They wrote the following in their book entitled The Eternal Dance. This is a time of opportunity for those who will take it. Apparently the New Agers. For others, apparently the Christians. If the earth is unsuitable for them, if they will not accept the New Age religion, they will go on to other worlds. 60. Another New Age spokesman, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the guru sought out by the rock and roll group known as the Beatles, has been quoted as saying, "There has not been and there will not be a place for the unfit." Apparently the Christians, the fit will lead, and if the unfit are not coming along, if they will not accept the New Age religion, there is no place for them. In the age of enlightenment there is no place for ignorant people. Non-existence of the unfit has been the law of nature. 61. Another example of New Age thinking on this vital issue came from a pamphlet available in a bookstore selling New Age material. It was published by something called the Guardian Action Publications of New Mexico, and it was entitled Cosmic Countdown. It alleged that it had received these thoughts from something called higher intelligence, and it directed its attention to the hunger disease problem in the Third World. The pamphlet stated, "The world should be forewarned to be on the lookout for diseases which have been suppressed for years, suddenly rearing their ugly heads and decimating populations already on the verge of starvation in the Third World nations. Although these peoples will eventually be replaced by the new root race about to make its appearance in a newly cleansed world. Nevertheless, for the moment, this is a tragedy." 62. The words reveal an incredible scenario. Those people in the Third World nations are going to be entirely replaced by a new root race. That eventuality will not be a tragedy. The tragedy is that these people are dying now due to starvation and disease. The concept that a new race of people will inhabit the world in the New Age millennium has been expressed by other believers in the religion. Ruth Montgomery, previously mentioned, has written about that change. Those who survive the shift will be a different type of people from those in physical form today, freed from strife and hatred, longing to be of service to the whole of mankind. The souls who help to bring on the chaos of the present century, apparently the Christians and the Jews, will have passed into spirit to rethink their attitudes. 63. To show that the New Agers are talking about the physical death of the enemy, one must only search the writings of other New Agers. Another believer to write on the subject of the destruction of those who will not accept the new religion was Ruth Montgomery. She has been quoted as saying in a transcribed interview carried by a magazine called Magical Blend, "Millions will survive and millions won't. Those who won't will go into the spirit state, because there is truly no death." 64. Estimates of the number to perish have been made by some New Agers. One who has made such an estimate is John Randolph Price, who was quoted by Tex Mars in his book about the New Age. He said that John Randolph Price was told by his spirit guide that up to 2.5 billion might perish in the coming chaos. 65. That estimate is about half of the current world population. Another estimate of the number required to die because they will not accept the new religion was offered by the so-called Tibetan master, DJ Wolkul, who has said in one of his channeling experiences that 1/3 of all humanity must die by the year 2000. 66. That would be about 2 billion people. Channeling is one of the strange activities occurring inside the New Age religion. Some of the believers claim that they have the ability to call forth the deceased spirit of someone who lived many years before. Quite often these spirits claim to be ascended masters, those who have gone on to discover the eternal truths of all of creation. One such believer who claimed to be in touch with a master was Alice Bailey, previously mentioned. Her spirit called himself DJ Wolkul, and she claimed he spoke through her, saying, "Death is not a disaster to be feared. The work of the destroyer is not really cruel or undesirable. Therefore there is much destruction permitted by the custodians of the plan and much evil turned into good." 67. Just what the plan constituted was told to the world by Benjamin Creme, another New Age leader. He placed an advertisement in about 20 newspapers all over the world on April 25, 1982. That defined the term. The ad read, in part, "What is the plan? It includes the installation of a new world government and new world religion under Maitreya." 68. But perhaps the most startling example of the teachings of this new religion came from the pen of Barbara Marx Hubbard, one of their most articulate writers. She wrote in her book entitled Happy Birthday Planet Earth, "The choice is Do you wish to become a natural Christ, a universal human, or do you wish to die? 69. People will either change or die. That is the choice. 70. So the people of the world will be given a choice. They will choose to accept the new religion, or they will choose to die. The battle lines are drawn. Choices will have to be made. Some of the leading socialists of the past have shown that they too have chosen up sides. One such individual was Adolf Hitler, the head of the German government during World War II, who held no conviction that the murder of over 50 million people during that war was wrong. He considered himself to be an agent of this unseen God in reducing the population of people that he held to be undesirable. He wrote, "I have the right to exterminate millions of individuals of inferior races, which multiply like bare minimum." 71. And he did what he considered acceptable inside his religion. Those who did not believe in his new religion had no choice, and they perished. The evidence that Adolf Hitler was a New Ager will be presented later in another chapter. Another of the leading spokesmen for the socialist position was George Bernard Shaw, a well-known writer during his day. He wrote a book entitled The Intelligent Woman's Guide to Socialism, in which he stated, "I also made it quite clear that socialism means equality of income or nothing. And under socialism you would not be allowed to be poor. You would be forcibly fed, clothed, lodged, taught and employed whether you like it or not. If it were discovered that you had not the character and industry enough to be worth all this trouble, you might be executed in a kindly manner. But whilst you were permitted to live, you would have to live well." 72. The Masonic writer, Albert Pike, placed the Masonic order into the discussion. When he wrote this in his book Morals and Dogma, it is not true to say that one man, however little, must not be sacrificed to another, however great, to a majority or to all men. That is not only a fallacy but a most dangerous one. Often one man and many men must be sacrificed, in the ordinary sense of the term, to the interest of the many. The interest and even the life of one man must often be sacrificed to the interest and welfare of his country. 73. The religious view is that the sacrifice of one life for the interest of the many is murder. And those who believe in the God of the Bible are told not to commit this act. The commandment against this practice is contained in Exodus chapter 20 verse 13 of the Old Testament, and in Matthew chapter 5 verse 21 in the New, and is simply expressed in the words, "Thou shalt not kill." The principle is easy to understand. No person has the right to take the life of another. This understanding is nearly worldwide. There are, of course, cultures that have determined that human sacrifice, cannibalism and murder are acceptable forms of behavior. But these are rare in the history of man. But here we are being exposed to a whole new religious view, one growing daily in size and stature, that openly advocates the wholesale slaughter of entire races of people. Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, has also endorsed this new conviction that murder was not improper by including it in the initiation ceremony into the order. He has his initiator tell the initiate, "Behold our secret. If in order to destroy all Christianity, all religion, we have pretended to have the sole true religion, remember that the end justifies the means, and that the wise ought to take all the means to do good which the wicked take to do evil." 74. The initiate was told that he may use whatever means, murder included, to achieve the goals of the association that he was joining, and that the major goal of the Illuminati was the destruction of all religion, including Christianity. That meant that if Christians physically stood in the way, they could be removed by simply murdering them. Weishaupt even went so far as to say that anyone not willing to take the life of another was unfit to join the Illuminati. He wrote the following in a letter to a fellow member in 1778. No man is fit for our order who is not ready to go to every length. 75. Weishaupt wrote that again, this time using different words. This can be done in no other way but by secret associations, which will by degrees, and in silence, possess themselves of the government of the states, and make use of those means for this purpose which the wicked use for attaining base ends. 76. Weishaupt was aware of the enormous power of government and he desired its power for his members. He committed his organization to its infiltration. Then, he committed it to unspeakable purposes. Anything that would further the goal of the Illuminati. He even went on to grant permission to his members to distort the truth by lying if it would further their goals. He wrote, "There must not a single purpose ever come in sight that may betray our aims against religion and the state. One must speak sometimes one way and sometimes another, but so as never to contradict ourselves, and so that, with respect to our true way of thinking, we may be impenetrable." 77. Perhaps a perfect example of an oath that these initiates take somewhere along the road to the pinnacle inside the secret society was given in a book written by George Orwell, entitled 1984. Mr. Orwell has an initiate into a secret society called the Brotherhood. In his story asked these questions. Are you prepared to give your life? Are you prepared to commit murder? Are you prepared to commit acts of sabotage which may cause the death of hundreds of innocent people? Are you prepared to betray your country to foreign powers? Are you prepared to cheat, to forge, to blackmail, to corrupt the minds of children, to distribute habit-forming drugs, to encourage prostitution, to disseminate venereal diseases, to do anything which is likely to cause demoralization and weaken the power of the people? Are you prepared to commit suicide, if and when we order you to do so? 78. This is an example of the philosophy that the ends justify the means. The initiate should do as he was required, as long as the act benefited the brotherhood. There is no morality under such an oath. So murder of the unfit, those unwilling to adopt the new religion, will be acceptable, and those who do the annihilating are to feel no remorse. In the view of the New Age religion, the murderers have served mankind well. But this callous disregard for the right to life of every human on the face of the earth has been predicted before. In the New Testament, John was moved to write in John chapter 6 verse 12, "Yea, the time cometh, that whosoever killeth you will think that he doth God service." The New World Order will sail in on a sea of blood.